اوكي سمعتنا حجي مس كاتين مايكن قريبنا لنا لما انتي اتي عبي زينا خوينو قريب زالو ناي هجدف سراويت ኤርትራ ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ኣብ ትግራይ ብፍላይ ድማ ይወርር ከም ዘሎ ኣረጋጊፆም ናይ ዩኤስ ሪፖርት ቀሪቡ ዘሎ እንታይ እዩ ካብ ትግራይ ከባቢ ቀልጢፉ ክወፅእ ከም ዘለዎ ብዜና ብሮይተርስ ቀሪቡ ኣሎ እዚ ክንዘራረበሉ ኢና እቲ ዘሎ ኩነታት ድማ ኣብ ትግራይ ክንዘራረበሉ ኢና just to begin we're gonna have discussion in English first and then after that we're gonna have in Tigrinya version. So Kathy and Mike, welcome to Cyber Power of Tigray.
Thank you for having us.
Great. So today I read a news about the United States believes report of Eritrean military involvement in a conflict in Ethiopia, Tigray region. And they say it's credible. The State Department spokesperson by... So what do you guys think this? I believe we are betrayed by Ethiopian government and by most of the Ethiopian people when we are attacked by foreign troops. So what is this? They have been declining or denying or lying that nobody was in the region of Tigray. For example, the General Brahanu Jula says, for Tigray, we're not going to ask anybody to help us. We can just finish it. But they just confirm that the Eritrean troops are already in Tigray region. This is, we already know, but it's already been confirmed by the world now. So what do you think this Ethiopian government is doing for Tigray? Let's start with Mike and then Kathy can continue on that. Before that, you guys, you can, maybe Kathy, she can introduce herself. Mike is already been known in Cyber Power of Tigray. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Kathy and I live in California. And I'm a proud Tigrayti who's been part of the Tigray community for a long time. And I'm happy to join and discuss the current topic.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Ephrem. Kathy, it's nice to see you. I don't know how long it's been. I think
since high school.
Last time I visited California, I think I saw you a little over 10 years ago, maybe. Might be way more than that, but good to see you. I think the U.S. confirmation about the Eritrean invasion in Tigray should not be news. I think we can point out that it's final about time. The United States of America publicly came out and requested Eritrea to withdraw its troops from Tigray. From day one, we in the diaspora and our people in Tigray have voiced our deep concerns because Ethiopia's federal government did not just bring federal troops to Tigray. He brought in all relevant parties within the Ethiopian federal system, which is 10 states, 9 out of the 10, have joined, whether by choice but by force, that's obviously everybody's prerogative. The reality of it is that Abiy Ahmed, not only did he use Eritrean bases, but used over 140,000 Eritrean troops have been deployed to Tigray. They've been captured in various corners of Tigray. We can talk about Zalambesa, Adigrat. There's various towns throughout the Tigray northern region that borders Eritrea, and Homora. I mean, the list goes on and on. The sad reality is that what's really disgraced is for the most powerful country in the world, the United States of America, having the kind of tie that goes over 100 years with Ethiopia, sat on the sidelines while the United Arab Emirates bombed villages and towns throughout Tigray. It's been 37 days that we have massive casualties, folks without electricity, without internet. They are being massacred on the hands of Eritrean forces and the federal Ethiopian forces, along with various regional forces in Tigray. And the humanitarian toll today is catastrophic. I am grateful for the number of countries in Europe, including the EU, have been speaking loud and clear that this war is senseless, it needs to stop. And yes, Abiy Ahmed should be declared straight a massacre. We're watching Hitler in 2020. That's what we have in Africa today, in Ethiopia today. We have Hitler, folks. So I don't want to take too much of the time. I want to give Kathy an opportunity to have her point of view, but I want the world to hear this before 2020 ends. We are 37 days into this war. We have duplication of Hitler in Ethiopia, and his name is Abiy Ahmed. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Kathy, it's yours now.
Yeah, I mean, like Mike said, this is a great news that U.S. has finally recognized that an outside country, Eritrea's troops, have been in the Tigray region fighting alongside the Ethiopian government. And this is a big deal that finally they recognize what we all been screaming and what's been happening for the last 37 years, 37 days. And so what this means is, you know, the Ethiopian government could face consequences of war crime, and also Eritrea could be, and the Ethiopian government could also be sanctioned. And, you know, they could be prevented from international communities and be involved. And I understand that the European Union has been condemning this and recognizing it, but sadly, the United States has been behind and just not been able to push for a real cause and help the civilians and all the innocent kids and older, young, everybody that's been suffering and fleeing to the neighboring country. It's really sad what is happening, what we've been witnessing for the past almost 5 weeks now. None of us have been able to get a hold of any of our family, and it's really unfortunate. And I hope that the U.S. diplomats can step in and intervene and do something about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, you know, to see all those troops are. I mean, the weird thing is, Abiy won Nobel Peace Prize last year. They said he made a peace with Eritrea, which is not true. He never done anything. But the presence of Eritrean troops on Ethiopia soil would alarm all Western allies right now. You know, they are just, even the Norway Nobel Peace Prize committee, it will alarm now after this news today, because we have been asking to revoke his Nobel Peace Prize by the Norway Nobel Peace Prize committee, but they haven't done anything yet. Even the guy who nominated Abiy was, like, you know, talking a lot of things about Abiy, that Abiy is made a war crime. Not only that, he's putting all the opposition party leaders to the jail and prison. And right now, he blocked everything. No internet, no phone, no food, no medical supplies to Tigray region. And a lot of people are dying. At the same time, he's bombarding a lot of stuff to Tigray people. There's a lot of casualties reporting every day. He's using airline, air force, and artillery, and people are leaving him. They are going to Sudan. For some of them, he just blocked them and killed them because he knew that they're going to witness what's going on in Tigray region. So I'm just I'm so glad that finally that the U.S. government is discover this obvious true stuff. The Tigray regional government has been reporting this. The Eritrean government is already in Tigray region, and we have already captured Eritrean troops in Ethiopia. They've been stealing stuff. They took a lot of infrastructure and even any utilities, kitchen equipment. They take a lot of stuff from Tigray to Eritrea, this is shame for them to do this kind of stuff. Since we speak the same language, we have the same culture, but the governments are very evil. So my concern is, you can add on this.
To that, for so long, the refugees fleeing to Sudan have been speaking of all of what was going on, that the Eritrean troops are there. They're getting from one side, from one angle. And so it's like, how do you not believe the actual victims that are fleeing and telling their story? It's just really disheartening to see that you're actually not believing the actual citizen who are suffering, who are telling the truth, what their family and everybody that's going through.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think Kathy, to her point, you have to be heartless. You have to have a cold heart to see thousands and thousands of children, women, and old folks struggle to survive the atrocity of Abiy Ahmed's cruelty. He didn't feel his troops were enough to massacre so many people. He brought in Eritrea entire forces. We know as of a week and a half ago, Eritrea had a mandate order anyone up to the age of 60 to join the armed forces, because at the early stages of the fighting in Homora and various areas, Eritrean troops either surrendered or many of them were captured. The movement in the Tigray government, it's been sadly in a number of the cities, including Mekelle, they simply exited to save the city. Abiy Ahmed said that he was going to bomb the entire city of an estimated 500,000 people, and the world was going to watch that. And we had Amhara in Washington, D.C. and throughout the world opening champagne and celebrating while their fellow Ethiopians were being massacred. I mean, what else do we need to say to the world? What Kathy say when the refugees in Sudan from day one say that the Amhara militia have been butchering innocent civilians in Tigray. Eritrean forces are fighting in Tigray. The U.S. have satellite. I think the tragedy behind this is that the U.S. and other powerful nations were so foolish to think that Abiy Ahmed's word was that in 3 days, he was going to go to Tigray, neutralize everything, arrest democratically elected regional government that was not a threat to Ethiopia's national security. He actually sent troops from throughout Ethiopia and Eritrea to overthrow a democratic elected governor. Along the process, there were over 100,000 Eritrean refugees in Tigray. So the world should pay attention more. Those refugees had safe haven in Tigray. When Abiy Ahmed made a deal with Isaias Afwerki, he ordered the regional government to send all those Eritrean refugees from Tigray. The regional government say, no, this is state affairs. We are going to support refugees and we're going to respect their existence. Because if we send them back to Eritrea, they're going to be jailed, massacred. And the Tigray people say, our brothers and sisters from Eritrea, when we eat, they're going to eat with us. When we're warm with our blankets, we're going to share it with them. When we go hungry, they're going to go hungry with us. They live peacefully along the people, not just the folks in the refugee camps. And what have happened to them? So the catastrophe that we're seeing, the humanitarian crisis, isn't just in Tigray. It's not just impacting and impacting Tigray people. It's impacting both meaning Eritreans and those from the Tigray region. Simply, we have Tigrinya speaking people. Tigray welcomes everybody. But we also know United Arab Emirates involvement is to eliminate as many Christians as possible in Tigray, because they can't stand historical places like Aksum and the strength of the Orthodox Christianity in Tigray. But what's sad is we have very loving, including the wonderful woman you interviewed that I watched. I mean, she's fellow Ethiopian. She left Ethiopia when she was 5 years old, from what I saw in the interview. She's a Muslim. She says, Assalamu alaikum, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My Arabic is faded, but I was so like heartwarmed to hear her greetings in Arabic. Mm-hmm. Arab countries should understand that the Tigray people love and respect everybody. We do not support hate. We do not preach hate. We do not segregate smaller minority groups based on religion, any political differences. But Abiy Ahmed have decided to betray Ethiopia and to distract Tigray. And he mentioned the looting, the theft that's happening, and it have happened and it's continuing to happen. Isaias has ordered his army, when you go to Tigray, you take everything that you can take. Anything else that you cannot take, be sure to destroy it. So if we don't capture any civilians, any military, anyone in Tigray, make sure you take everything that you find. And if it's something that you cannot bring it with you, destroy it so that they don't come back from the villages, from refugee areas in Sudan, anywhere to reside, to live in their villages and towns. They have peacefully live, enjoy their independent right to exist as regional state, but working with their fellow Ethiopian throughout the country. That being said, when you think about it, over 6,000 Eritrean in the last 24 hours were forcefully put in multiple buses from Addis Ababa because they fled the war for safety. Where is the United Nations? Where is the outrage from the world that Eritrean refugees who had safe haven in Tigray been bombarded and murdered with their fellow Tigrayans, run to other part of Ethiopia, particularly in Addis Ababa? He doesn't want refugees in Addis Ababa. He doesn't want respect refugee status. So he's now packing them up and bringing them back to Tigray. And over 10,000 have been abducted. And nobody knows what happened to them. They were taken back to Eritrea. So the pain and suffering that we're discussing today, we're dealing with two leaders that the world should wake up today and tell them enough is enough. We appreciate the United States speaking out publicly today, but I'm afraid every day that from today that goes by is every day that's costing innocent civilians lives. We have people throughout Tigray today. We have a specific bread maker that has been transitioned from handmade clay that you bake your general injera to electrical equipment. I was talking to a friend earlier today, and we were discussing how they can't, they could have food, but they can't even bake the food anymore. Could you imagine where you're looking at food, but you have no way of processing the food to actually, consume it, because the federal government says publicly that the war is against the Tigray leadership, but he continues to choke our people because he can't even turn on electricity. And what is his fear that he says that he would not allow an independent investigation to go in? So I would like the US to be more forceful, and the European Union, along other actors who care about humanity. This is a humanitarian crisis. And it's very sad that it's taken this long, even for the US, 37, almost 36 days for them to even publicly speak, because we know they knew, but I think the pressure obviously is mounting, and the humanitarian crisis is also a disaster, while leaders around the world dance around this and saying, like, what do we do? Who do we support? Support the victims. Stand with the people who are suffering. Don't stand with dictators. Don't stand with killers. Stand with innocent civilians, children, women. Please stand with humanity. This is humanitarian crisis. We're not asking for you to declare a war. We're asking you to stand up for humanity. I mean, it is simple and clear.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Well, when I talk about the impact of the war, it's very like heartbreaking. We've seen a lot of people are displacing. Tigray, as you said, Mike and Kathy, Tigray was the only region that was very peaceful. We had a lot of multi-nation nationalities in Tigray, in universities and other places. And no one was hurt or killed because of their ethnicity. But the government, Abiy Ahmed, had hate. He doesn't want to lose his power. So the big opposition parties, and he thinks TPLF was a threat for his power. So he closed the road, the main roads, so that we can have anything. And the Amhara militia was blocking the roads and taking a lot of stuff that goes to Tigray, and he never done anything. And now, because of the war, a lot of people are going to Sudan, like we said earlier. And my question is now, it's he said the war is already over, but none of the criminals that he said are criminals are not captured. And I don't understand why the people are not asking him, if the war is over, what are those criminals? Where did he capture them? Did he kill them? Did he capture them? Or are you killing Tigray people instead? All we see is a lot of Tigrayan people are killed. All we see is a lot of civilians are displaced. And I can imagine the hate, and I don't know if they wanted to create another Rwanda in Tigray region.
Sadly, they have, though. I'm sorry, they have. I'm sorry, but right. They have created Rwanda.
Yes. So yeah, those are my concerns. So you can continue, or Kathy can continue about this. This is just the main issue that that I wanted to discuss about.
Yeah, I mean, it's he said the war is over in Tigray, and obviously that's a tactic and the pressure that he was getting from world leaders to cease fire. And so for him, it's to assure the diplomats around the world, all the media, the independent news media that want to cover this news, he's getting the pressure. And so for him, it's kind of like to assure and to get less pressure from around the world. He's basically fooling everybody, just like what he's been, the way he fooled the world for him to be a Nobel Peace Prize winner. You know, it shows you he's just a two-faced, and all the lies that's been happening over and over. And it's just really hard for me and for many of us in the Tigray community to understand how those people that are working next to him are just supportive of the idea of just children and, you know, young kids, older, sick, everybody getting hurt. It's not the leaders that are getting hurt. He hasn't captured anybody as far as we know. And, you know, you mentioned earlier, the regional government, you know, they left the main cities of Magala and, you know, they're in the mountain, you know, and that's to save their people. They don't want to bombard them with all these you know, military equipment and have that, and they're trying to save their people. And you know, it's sadly, I don't know how this man can just continue and fool the world, and I hope that they can, you know, hold him accountable for all the action and that he's committing. For me, it's like I'm a Civil War survivor. I went through the 30 years ago. I was born into a war zone. I'm an 80s baby, and I remember everything that was happening from the age that I can remember all the way to 9 years old when I left Ethiopia. So for me, this brings a lot of memory and trauma that I don't want to ever remember. You know, all those refugees and all those civilians that are hiding from a plane flying over them. I was part of that. I remember what that was like as a kid, and it's really sad.
Yeah, it's very interesting, you know, that Mike also last time told me that he's one of the victims of the war because he had to go to Sudan and came to during the war in between us in Ethiopia. And I don't know when we are going to learn from this. We're just hate each other and kill each other since they can just solve the issues around the table if we have, like, you know, any kind of political differences or issues. So it's just heartbreaking to go to war again, and at the same time to have another country to involve on this war is totally, it's unbelievable. No one can believe it. That was I think the main problem, that United States and other countries are having a hard time to believe that the Nobel Peace Prize Prime Minister is going to ask a help from a different country to hit and to kill his own people. This is, for me, it was, I don't know, this is just weird for me to hear it.
I think this is the first of the world. It's never been heard of. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know, I struggle to say here in a prime minister. I think, you know, his new title that I have for him is actually the prime monster. This guy is a monster.
That's true.
I mean, just as simple as that. And I think, you know, what Kathy mentioned, I think many of us who left Ethiopia at a young age, we left Ethiopia to the same thing what's happening today, back in the 80s. I mean, Kathy's story and other that I know, you know, Kathy and I actually, you know, it's interesting, but we went to high school together in Fresno. You know, we've known each other for who knows how long, you know, and so that's why I'm like, you know, glad to see her again. And, but, you know, you guys were talking, you know, I'm just like trying to grasp and trying to put words into the discussion. It's like you were talking about criminals, you know, or you know, when you see criminals, you can tell. I see two criminals. That is Abiy Ahmed, who his term has expired, as I've said like previous on this show, at the beginning of October, because he manipulated and lied to Ethiopians that he couldn't held an election in May, when every other country, including the regional government in Tigray, with precaution of COVID, successfully held an election. His struggle was he lost confidence for most of the Ethiopians, whether it be the Oromos, the Afar, I mean, I can go to the list and this, you know, in every region in Ethiopia, less the Amhara region, he doesn't have 40% support from every state in Ethiopia, with the exception of the Amhara. The Amhara thinks somehow, if they line up with him, they can chop up Tigray in pieces, and to take it because they claim it's their land, and then yet, at the expense of civilians, they celebrate. And the second criminal that I see is Isaias Afwerki. Eritrea fought 30 years of war. 30 years of the 17 of that 30 year, actually, the Tigray folks rose up alongside. Eritreans and Tigrayans have fought together, bled together, died together. We speak the same language. We look the same. But the Eritreans have been suffering, and they continue to suffer. And what Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki, the two biggest criminals today in Africa, are the ones that they should be held accountable for the massacre. You have what, roughly 5 million people in Eritrea, a little over 6 million in Tigray, an estimated number like anywhere between 6 to 6.5 million. You combine those two, you've got 11 to 11.5 million people. Two men wants to get rid of them. And it's disgraceful for the Ethiopian armed forces to betray their fellow soldiers from Tigray who served with them for so long. In the end, this is what's happening to the people of Tigray and Eritrea. And I think he declared the war is over. If the war is over, is he not able to climb like a single mountain with his troops? And I don't know if you guys heard about this, but this week he was paying 5,000 to 6,000 Ethiopian birr to the youth throughout Addis Ababa because they're struggling to survive. Since COVID hit at the beginning of this year, most youth in Ethiopia that had basic jobs no longer have jobs, employment. So it's been chaos throughout Addis Ababa and a lot of the larger cities in the south. And this past week, he's so desperate. The amount of like soldiers from the federal government, from the Amhara, how many of them have been dead in this senseless fighting? Early on, we talked about how even their bodies, as those of us who are in the diaspora, who understands about the geopolitics and geography in Ethiopia, imagine you soldiers are on the side of the roads that they can't even get proper burials, and the hyenas at nighttime are now coming out and eating the bodies, which is very sad. And I wonder what Abiy Ahmed is going to tell the mothers and fathers who will never see their children that they sent to war, that is senseless, to kill their fellow Ethiopians, from Tigray region, and they will never come back because they're dead. So to me, you don't have to be a politician to understand this basic, simple principle behind it. This guy wants to stay in power. This guy have no interest in democracy. This guy no interest in election. The U.S. just lost faith in him. That's why they speak up publicly. Because initially, they believed that he was going to do what he say, and that somehow he's going to have full control of Ethiopia, and it's going to be golden, that everything's going to be perfect. The reality of it is, that is the most dangerous and miscalculated assumption to make, because we know the strength and the will of the Tigray people. What most within the Tigray leadership have done, though, is they've been very cautious. They've been very patient. And at times where there's an opportunity for them to defend themselves and fight back, they pull back. Because there's a deeper concern that cities like Mekelle, and to just name one, because that's a main one, there are other towns in Shire and Aksum and Adwa. There has been like fighting back and forth. There's been at least like twice that we heard, we have heard, like over and over, that it would go for a day and a half to 2 days. Most of his soldiers are dead or run to Eritrea. Then he would bring like more tanks and more planes and start bombing. And then the Tigray fighters would pull to save civilians within. So this is really a miscalculated war, that fighting is not going to be successful for neither movement. We're not going to solve this by fighting on the ground. The U.S. is now getting the message. So for a lot of you who are out there in the diaspora, I'm not just summarizing this, but I want you to know that we appreciate your support. We appreciate that the horrors that you've seen in Tigray, over 950,000 people in Tigray are confirmed displaced throughout the region. We know nearly 50,000 also have managed to enter to Sudan. We also know, I have said this prior, that the military is blocking the main road for refugees to enter to Sudan, and is also trying to collaborate with the Sudanese government, trying to fool them and say it's safe to bring them back. And I just want to, say to the Tigray community or Tigray diaspora, how strong and unified you are. You are working tirelessly. I've seen people literally 16 to 20 hours a day trying to balance their life with their jobs, and also trying to do whatever they can, reaching out to the congressmen and congresswomen, senators, reaching out to one another. I mean, it's like, I don't know how many of us in the diaspora are not now out doing outreach, communicating, trying to do what we can to do humanitarian. I will mention the communities here in the West Coast. A few days ago, I was in a Zoom meeting. Seattle and Portland, Oregon, have worked together to send humanitarian aids to Sudan, gathering like so many clothes and formula for babies. And, I'm not going to go to the details of it, but support that is put together to go to Sudan. There's many people also that are physically wanting to go to Sudan and help the refugees actually from here, believe it or not. So I admire the people who are like really standing together, uniting, because this is about humanitarian. We have humanitarian crisis, folks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is something forgotten about the outrage of the power, the electricity. I heard people are dying now. It's not only by artillery and bombarding by Abiy Ahmed and the Eritrean troops, but also because they don't have enough food or to cook, no electricity, no internet to connect with anybody. People are like, inside their home with fear. All this trauma, as you know, they will have a very, very, very bad post-traumatic stress disorder and fear for the whole month inside their house. There is no any activities. The entire region has been blocked and closed. And the Eritrean troops are running around with Kalashnikov. And if somebody is coming out from the house, they just kill them or tell them to stay inside the house. This is, how could you do this for your own people, especially the Abiy Ahmed and the Ethiopian army doing this for Tigrayan people, not for this is not a law. Is this? Do you think this is a law enforcement action? If the whole people is criminal, the whole Tigray people is criminal, they are treating him as a criminal, the whole entire people of Tigray. So I'm just thinking sometimes the international communities are so late. They need to send troops, UN, United Nations, armies in between our borders of Tigray and Eritrea and Ethiopia. I don't consider myself, I think a lot of people are not considering themselves that they are Ethiopian anymore because they've been killed by Ethiopian troops, by Amhara militia, by our terrorists. They don't have no medical supplies, they don't have no food to cook, they don't have no electricity. So people are dying in a lot of communicable diseases. Who knows? The COVID-19 has been ignored. Maybe there are a lot of people that have COVID-19, we don't know. They cannot go to the health centers. They cannot go to anywhere. They are dying inside their house. So my head is sometimes trying to blow, you know, when I think about this situation. So I don't know. We need to say something for the United Nations, European Union, United Arab Emirates, and other. Pompeo, I don't know what he's thinking right now. I think U.S. Army is like, United States is saying something. I hope he's probably changing his mind that the problem is obvious. So on this matter, I think you guys need to say something, what's going on and what you guys think. Thank you so much. Maybe Kathy can say something about this too. I know you mentioned it earlier.
I mean, I think a lot of people are advocating and pushing for a real resolution and for the world leaders to intervene and stop Abiy from committing and ethnic cleansing is what is happening. It's not just in the regional Tigray. Every Tigrayans, and no matter where they are, as long as they're in Ethiopia, they're targeted. And then this is just it's all a systematic plan to corner all Tagada people, to really dehumanize them, the things that you mentioned, like no humanitarian aid, there's no independent media covering all these things that are happening internally. The region is in complete blockout. No internet, no phone, no any kind of communication, no food. I mean, it's really hard to imagine what people are going through on a day-to-day in the city, in the town, everywhere in all the different regions in Tigray. It's really heartbreaking, and we can only imagine the worst. Like I said, some of us who lived way back in the days, 30 years ago, who survived it. I remember my mom, there's times where we barely had any like a popcorn was our dinner. You know, I just hope everybody's doing everything they can to survive and come out of this stronger. But I think all of us in the diaspora community, we need to continue to fight for our people. That means reaching out to all the diplomats. We're doing amazing. I mean, I've seen some of the most hardworking people realizing that our identity, who we are as a community of people are targeted, and that just, there are just so many people that want us gone. There's so many of them standing up right now, from young, from old. We're all mobilizing, and it's really encouraging to know that. There are a lot of people who are working hard on the back end that people don't even know that who's doing what. So I hope that the humanitarian aid, something will go, you know, independent investigation and media are allowed, so we can, you know, find out what's happening to our family and everybody, the whole region in Tigray. And that's what we need to push. You know, everybody that's watching, everybody, wherever they are, let's continue to push the world leaders to intervene, because this is another Rwanda that is happening in complete darkness. So we need to hold these leaders, our representatives, accountable and continue to speak out by calling, by whatever it means. But, you know, we also need to encourage, you know, non-Ethiopians. You know, we need their help. We're so small in population, you guys. One of the things is it's just really important to tell your colleague, anybody out there, to reach out to them and tell them what's going on. Because you'll be surprised to us, everything that's happening is in our face. And, you know, we know what's going on and how long, you know, our people have been suffering, but the outside world doesn't really know what's happening. You know, it's like, you expect people to know you, your colleagues, to like, you know what's happening in Ethiopia. And, you know, some people are like, what's happening? Nothing. It's not in there. It's not visible to them. So I highly encourage to reach out to non-Ethiopians, to voice their opinion, to condemn this war and continue to support, and to, you know, push for a solution on this issue. And it's very, very critical. So, you know, and that's my message to everybody, is to push outside the community, to be able to voice and advocate.
Great. Yeah. Maybe Mike, I don't know, you may have some kind of, I mean, I was like, you know, like she said, you know, people are like, you know, dying now in Tigray, not only by bullets and artillery and by air forces, but also because of power outage, because of lack of clean water, because it's just, you are a sociologist too, you know about the post-traumatic stress disorder. Like Kathy said, not only people in Tigray, but also people in all over Ethiopia are targeted because of their identity, because they are who they are.
Well, I know this is emotional hard for everybody, and I can see and sense your emotions. Obviously, I think for the first week and a half or so, 2 weeks, you know, we cried, we try to comfort each other, but there's nothing to comfort, right? I mean, I think there are no words to describe what's happening today. You know, the trauma is forever. To those who are going to survive through it, I mean, this is permanent damage to them. It's awful. I mean, think about it. For 37 days and going, he's literally choking an entire population. This is not, again, you know, not to repeat, but this is not about fighting, you know, a Tigray military versus Abiy Ahmed military. This is purely designed to militarily, but also with that, the military, when he shut off running water, when he shut off electricity. I mean, talk about cruelty. You are killing a whole population of 6.5 million people slowly and surely, because it's not raining right now. So most of the people who don't have easy access to water, what are they drinking? We don't even know really how many people are being killed on a regular basis. So if people are wondering why the Ethiopian government is saying they don't want international independent investigators there, I mean, could you imagine a criminal who just murdered a bunch of people before he washes his hand? If a police says, hey, we want to fingerprint to you, we want to check your pocket, your car, before he hides his weapons and washes his hands. I mean, that's what we're seeing. So Ethiopia doesn't want an international investigators to go in because they're buying their time. The majority of people that they kill, they're going to find ways to do mass graves and hope that those mass graves will never be discovered. Because the reality of it is that we're going to have massive people that are going to be disregarded, unaccounted for. But the one that we know, what's happening right now, if you have nearly 950,000, nearly 1 million people displaced, most people have run out of the cities into the villages. And if now the Eritrean military is burning most of those villages, their livestock are being destroyed. I mean, even the villagers who have the ability to put fire together and cooking and doing those things, they can't, because you got an entire military, a foreign invader, a leadership failure talking Ethiopia, bring in a army from another country, bring in drones from a country that has no borders with Ethiopia. United Arab Emirates has no border in Africa. And we talked about that earlier. But the trauma isn't just the people who are suffering. The people on the ground right now that are suffering, sadly, they're dying slowly because they have nothing to eat, because they're thirsty, they have nothing to drink. And that's okay for people. Clearly, we saw, like I keep pointing out, the Amhara dancing, celebrating. You celebrating because you saw your fellow Ethiopians being murdered? And you go on the website, on social media, calling us names because we're speaking out the truth, because we are sick and tired of children and women being massacred. What does the peaceful civilian have to do with any of the fighting? Nothing. But they have one thing in common. They are from Tigray, and the goal is to kill and destroy the Tigray region and the Tigray people. So that's what people have to understand. Your question also was, is there, I think somewhere along the way, is there something that, we should say to Secretary of State Pompeo? I think Secretary of State Pompeo knows clearly what's happening. He is top government official. He gets daily briefings with the U.S. government. That's how it works. They know everything. They know the massacre that's taking place. I think if the U.S. really wants to be a hero, now will be the time. Now will be the time to put politics aside and say, we cannot sit here and watch something that's actually worse than Rwanda. Because when this war is over, we're going to see more death, more destruction in Tigray than any other country in Africa that we have witnessed, particularly in our lifetime. At least I can say that. That is a tragedy. We have a couple senators that have proposed sanctions against Ethiopia. I hope the rest of the US senators should follow suit. I hope the EU and other powers like Turkey would speak up against this atrocity and say enough is enough. And to Kathy's point, it's very important for us to not only just network with our fellow Tigrayans from Tigray. We need to speak up. We are small in number, but we are strong in strength. So we have the will and the strength. When we reach out, let's reach out and spread the word. Tell Americans who are not seeing this, who are consumed in their own domestic politics. By the way, you know, when we say Americans, we are part of them. We are part of this country, part of this system. So when we reach out to our politicians, you know, it is our politicians' responsibility to represent us. We are their constituents. As a constituents, we should be able to pressure our politicians. We should be able to tell them, this is not even a pressuring them. This is speaking out, you know, seeking justice for those who are voiceless. We have millions of people in the northern part of Ethiopia and the Tigray region currently have no voice. They are being massacred by their own government. They are being slowly but surely killed because of cutting off every corner of Tigray is basically choked. And we saw what happened to George Floyd. He tried to survive. 8 minutes and 43 seconds, he died. And that's what's happening to the Tigray people right now. And if people all over the world were outraged of George Floyd being choked to death because it was a national television, folks, all you have to do is look at what we're saying, listen to what's happening around the world, look at the refugees in Sudan. You don't have to believe us. We're telling you the truth, but the choice is yours. What we're telling you is what's happening. But if you want more confirmation, more evidence, there is plenty of independent media outlets out there. But look at the refugee, look no further. Look at the refugees in Sudan, listen to their horror stories, look at the images. Those are not fabricated stories. When a young man throws I mean, you can see like a couple of photos that I saw yesterday, somebody sent me. I mean, somebody's back is like the amount of like, you know, hit that he's taken to his back. That's torture. And you know what? That's because Abiy Ahmed ordered this atrocity. And if the world's not going to, you know, hold him accountable for this massacre, for this action, I don't know why we even have a United Nation. What's the purpose of having a United Nation? For the name of it, what purpose is the United Nation to serve? I'm not trying to criticize the United Nation, but I think it's time for the United Nation to form a better, strong coalition and to hold Ethiopia accountable, Ethiopian government, Ethiopian military officials, prime minister, to hold them accountable and to tell them that this cannot continue. So we wanted to stop actually now, not keep talking about this. I'm really sick and tired of keep talking about this. I want my people to be left alone, to live their life freely. If they express and exercise their right to vote, that should not mean they did not sign death sentence. By them voting, electing original government did not mean each and every one of them signed death sentence. And that's what's happening today. I'm sorry that I try to hold my emotions. I try not to be emotional, but for me voting, can you imagine as an American, if I vote for a choice of whoever I want for my home state, and all of a sudden my children and myself our lives are basically threatened, we're going to be killed. I think that speaks volume to me. So I don't know what the confusion with the world leaders to dance around this catastrophe and not take actions to Ethiopia. Why? I mean, how long is it going to take for them to take, you know, sanction to really take a measure, swift action? I mean, like I mentioned this in the show before to you, it happened in Yugoslavia. It took no time. They took action. It stopped. I understand Ethiopia is a sovereign nation. I heard the, you know, his propaganda machine speaking that we don't need babysitters. No, what you need is mature adults who don't massacre their people. Those people right now running the system in Ethiopia have no authority because their time has expired. End of story. I think, you know, I can go on, but the reality of it is that we need to, all of us, to continue this fight until every human being in Ethiopia is respected peace is stored, humanitarian aids are freely entered to Tigray, an international independent investigator are in Tigray investigating the killers who are murdering, torturing innocent civilians based on their tribes. And that is really the devastating story of the 2020, that the COVID, we thought it was the worst, but we have a government that, because he can't win an election, he's turning his own people, that he knows the unity of Tigray to respect the rule of law is a threat to a man who got a Nobel Prize and got hyped up from it. And Norway and the rest of the world should wake up. I mean, why is it taking Norway this long to not even do anything, say anything? Why is it not being revolt? I think that far from like today's date, this should have been revolt. Not only should it have been revolt, but I think Abiy Ahmed should be the discussion of every topic in the world until the massacre ends. And the only way it's going to end is we need reasonable people from around the world to show their outrage. And if you're not outraged when you have 6.5 million people choked to their throat, I'm not quite sure what kind of human heart that we all have to just sit and watch what's happening. And I apologize. I go on and on.
Yeah, he needs to come to justice. He's a war crime. He committed a war crime, and this is obvious. And we need justice right now. I mean, that's why we have United Nations. That's why we have all those dictators. They cannot do like that. People are, because of their identity around the capital city of Addis. There are more than 6,000 people has been taken somewhere and fired from their work, from their job, and people are, because they don't have no job anymore, they are on the street. Not only in Ethiopia, let me tell you something. Even here in United States, the Ethiopian embassy in America has been fired five or six people because those people are Tigrinya speakers. Because they speak Tigrinya, they've been fired from their job. Look what they are doing in Tigray. I'm sorry, go ahead and Kathy. If they have done all this here in
Yeah, that's very concerning. I think recently we heard the Ethiopian airline has fired or told all Tigrayan workers they've been given a yellow slip to stay home. And so this is, Ethiopian Airline is a global company that, everybody respects and loves. And so for them to even go as far as removing any Tigrayans working in the airline tells you that they don't even have the respect for what the international people or committee thinks of this. This is clearly a racist, selecting a group of people just solely based on where they're from. And the war just imagine these are things that we're hearing and people are able to get the story out. What we know is that people living in the Addis are living in fear. Like, I cannot call my family out there and talk to them about anything. It's just they're living in fear. They're worried what can happen to them. Can they be the next people that, policemen or armies are going to come and barge in their homes and question them when they have no business? So clearly this is an agenda. It's a threat to all Tagaros everywhere. And they're afraid, and we need to continue to voice that because, here in America, like we talk about fairness in work environment. So many of us advocate and push for equality, and it's like as Ethiopians, it's like I never thought we would look at each other any different from one another, but what's sad to me in this whole thing, honestly, is just the way other fellow Ethiopians are acting or not responding at all, not really voicing and, condemning what is happening, standing by their fellow Tagado people when they're being targeted. What I've witnessed in the last 37 days, just from people that I knew growing up, like their silence it speaks volume to me. The fact that they're just standing by and saying nothing about the war, and just some are cheering. I got really upset at so many of my close friends that I knew growing up who I loved just by the fact that they were Ethiopian. I embraced them. And to see that they're cheering, and they're cheering the death of my family. And that's really something that I'm struggling, and it gets me emotional so many times, is that what happened to the humanity, the peace-loving Ethiopian people all over? And, coming here at 10 years old, back in the days in the 90s, like just the fact that we found an Ethiopian person was so wonderful. We always embraced each other. It didn't matter where they're from. And it used to be that way, and we grew apart, and I don't know how. Like, what happened to us? It's those people that we sat, we took trips with, we ate food, we invited to each other's parties and events. And where are those people that we loved as a fellow Ethiopians? It's really hard for me to know that we're that much hated. And that's something that I don't think I'll ever get over, and it's hard for me. And it's just really difficult. And I just, what happened? What did the Tagado people in general do for us to be in this position that everybody wants to just destroy us from this world? I don't understand. And I really hope there's going to be in the end of it, when this thing ends, that, especially in Ethiopia, that there are some really good people that were looking out for our Tagado people and protecting them. I'm really hoping that there are stories like that, because for me to believe that every single person in Ethiopia is really out to kill all Tagado, it's hard to believe. And it's really concerning. So yeah, I mean, I'll let you go ahead and talk. Mike.
I know Kathy, like you said it's the facts, each and every one of us in the diaspora can't even make a phone call and check on our loved ones. We can't send them money to support them. I mean, I don't know, like, what else we can say. Honestly, I don't understand. I know that not all Ethiopians are supporting this war and really in line with what Abiy Ahmed is doing. I do know that the Amharas are. And I keep saying this because they've been waiting for this opportunity. And it's given to them. And when it is given to them, it took no days within the first few moments of entry to Tigray through Hamara, we saw over 600 massacres. And yet they try to turn and twist that and trying to tell us that, oh, the Tigray youth, the Tigray police, whatever, did it. I'm tired, and I'm sick and tired of explaining over and over this thing. I just want it to stop. I just want an end to it. And I think each and every one of us, including those who are not from Tigray, that believe in humanity, that have just human heart, I think they will say, this is awful, and we should figure out a way to stop it. So I hope those who are like out there, watching this, I hope you're not too discouraged and give up. I hope that you will find strength and courage to continue the fight, to continue to speak for those who have no voice. I think unity from the international community is the only solution that we have to this crisis. And if we don't speak up, if we don't stand up, I think we're not going to see change. You know, I come out here to speak because what's happening is not okay. And I know Abiy Ahmed, obviously, he follows like one guy, and that's Isaias Afwerki. And what does Isaias Afwerki like to do? He likes to torture, he likes to kill people. Eritrea was under sanctions for many, many, many years. Eritreans have been tortured. Why am I shifting from Tigray to Eritrea? Because that's what Isaias is telling Abiy, and whatever Abiy hears from Isaias, he's going to do it. Otherwise, you don't bring up foreign invaders and invade your own country. So if you really, like think about the whole geopolitics behind it, Abiy knows without Eritrea, without Isaias' help militarily, he knows he can't survive. He knows that for a fact. So that's why it's even more insulting for the world to allow the foreign nations like Eritrea to enter the Tigray and pretend that they didn't know about it and not do anything about it. And I think to the Sudanese people, I've said it the other day, I hope that they continue to support our people. They continue to do what humanitarian crisis calls them to act upon. And saying thank you is not enough, but we should always keep in mind that they're the only people right now that are taking every single refugee crosses over. I mean, I saw like on Al Jazeera just recently, Sudanese soldiers crossing over the river that divides Ethiopia and Ethiopia to rescue, not to invade, to rescue those who did not make it all the way. It shows you how weak the Abiy administration is. You don't open up your borders to the foreign nations to enter their militaries. In one hand, it's great what's happening, but on the other hand, if he was powerful, if he was strong enough, yet he was in Kenya just a couple of days ago. He's now asking the Kenyan government to help him fight the Oromo, who have region that borders with Kenya, because he doesn't have the military capability to have military in Tigray. He knows he can't survive without Eritrea. But now he's got another issue with the Oromo population uprising, but also an actual military action that's taking place. This guy is going hotel to hotel at night to sleep. He's not even spending the night at his presidential palaces in Addis Ababa. What does that tell you? But at least he's sleeping at hotels, where my people, our people, are dying of starvation and thirsty because a reckless man ordered a war that was not warranted. And I hope that this will come into an end, because time is running out for a lot of people and we are losing them every day that goes by. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think you two explained very well. And at the end, maybe what we need to say is for our people in Tigrinya, just a little bit of message. We want to switch our channel.
Ephrem, I have one more message to share to everybody in English. I really want to continue, the diaspora community everywhere, wherever you guys are, to be heavily active on Twitter. Make sure you use the hashtag Stop War on Tigray, because we need this hashtag to, trend. This is going to continue to bring awareness Make sure you tag all the necessary world leaders, media outlets when you do your tweets. It's very important. And you guys, everybody that knows we're signed up for Twitter, individually, we need to do our part, which is reach out to our younger brother and sisters and tell them to sign up on Twitter. I've done that myself. People, cousins that I have, I've reached out. I'm like, are you on Twitter? Go on Twitter and advocate and, start raising. It's not just on Instagram. We need to be involved on all social media platforms. It's like I said in the past, we're so small in population, and it's really important that we are all getting involved and advocating and posting and sharing. We also need all the young people out there to participate, continue to reach out to your local Tigray community, ask how you can get involved. There's so many things that can be done. We need your knowledge, your expertise. A lot of you may be very savvy in technology and everything, and this is the time that we need everybody to get involved. So again, please continue to advocate, use Twitter as much as you can. The hashtag Stop War on Tigray is very important.
Great. Yeah, if we do have a message for the Tigray people and the Tigrayan diasporas and the international communities, maybe Mike, you can continue to.
Thank you. Kathy, you can go too. Sorry if you have something, but I do want to say something. But Kathy, please go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
I think for me, I have emphasized it before. What I will say is thank you, Kathy, how you actually express it. I think that's real critical, that we cannot lose sight of what's happening. So we need to continue to reach out. When we do hashtagging on social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, make sure you do link to the relevant U.S. and world leaders and politicians. But that being said, we are really
there's a link tree that has a lot of tools how they can tweet and the information they can put out there. And so if they reach out to their local Tigray community, TPN, the Tagada Professional Network is another great source who is doing a lot of back-end work. And that's important. I just want to put that out. Sorry to interrupt you, Mike.
No, you're okay. No, I think it's important. And I've seen a lot of this, and we have had people that need a little bit of guidance. And we do have a large population that is not used to using social media, especially Twitters and Instagram and whatnot. So that's really helpful information. I do want to say to the world, though, that the lies from the Abiy administration is duplicated from Isaias Afewerki's deceiving his people of Eritrea for 30 years. So if you are going to take face value from Abiy Ahmed, I cannot emphasize but to tell you that when he say he's going to finish the war in 3 days, today is day number 37. In a few hours, it's going to be Saturday morning. For some of you in the East Coast, it already is. For some of you, those of you in Europe and Africa, like you're looking at day 38 already. 3 days. So we have huge challenges ahead of us. First and foremost, it's the humanitarian challenges. For the humanitarian challenges to be resolved sooner rather than later, we need the fighting to end. Abiy Ahmed, no matter how you sugarcoat it, no matter what he says, the fighting will continue unless he comes to the table and negotiates. I know he doesn't believe in that right now, but in the back of his mind, I hope he's thinking more than twice, because if somehow he believes militarily he's going to defeat the strength and the will of the Tigray people, he's fully mistaken. So the world should know that we have a humanitarian crisis. We need to stop humanitarian crisis by simply pressuring and doing whatever it takes to stop this fighting. We have to pressure him. If it doesn't, we're going to lose more lives, which is our utmost concern, is a life lost every single day. The fighting, unless there's a sit-down discussion, it will not end. It will be the most devastating fighting that Ethiopia has ever experienced. Yes, those from Tigray that are fighting, I'm sure they're losing their lives too. But they, when you play defense, I think it's a lot easier than playing offense. So you could really be the bigger person and come to the table and say, you know what? We made a mistake. Let's end this war, save these people, and figure out a solution. So to the Tigray people in the diaspora and throughout the world, continue the fight. Continue the fight by speaking out. I'm not saying go out and fight with somebody, but continue the fundraisers that you've been doing. Continue to put together a community that works together, that networks together. Do the outreach and make sure that we are coordinating with the appropriate government officials, non-government organizations who are working with the refugees in Sudan, so that we can help them to send food and other materials that they need to survive. Internally in Ethiopia, we know massively Tagaras are being threatened, arrested, and killed. What I can tell you is that we know this is happening. We're watching it. We're following it. We're speaking on your behalf. We stand with you. We feel your pain. We're hurt too. We are mentally and emotionally disturbed by it. But we are fighting in the best way that we can. In the end, Tigray will prevail. The people of Tigray, the will and the strength they have, while we lose like so many lives in this senseless war, we will prevail. And when we do, those who traumatize, who murder our people, will not only regret it, but will face justice. And justice in the end will prevail, but it is a very expensive one. So it is very miscalculated fight that Abiy Ahmed took on, a fight that he's not going to win. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome. You guys are the best. You have explained and been an advocate for your own people, for our people. And that's what we need to do, all of us. We need to speak out. Tigray lives matter. So we need to say something, all of us. So they are choking, as you said, and people are every day dying. And we have to do something. At least we need to speak out.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this, Ephrem. It's really important, and we need this platform. So I highly encourage you. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, so our audience, Cyber Power of Tigray. Now we're gonna have maybe 5-10 minute wrap up in Tigrinya, since we speak all Tigrinya here. Not more than 5-10 minutes. We're not gonna go details. We have explained everything in English already. But finally, both of you, if you can say something for Tigrinya speakers in everything. We spoke about a lot of things. So in general, to wrap up in Tigrinya language. I know you guys are Tigrinya. You guys grow up here in America. And I know you can speak Tigrinya, but with some kind of shortage. But you can say something. Mike is already great. He speaks a good Tigrinya, but I haven't heard Tigrinya from Kathy. So let's start with Kathy and say something about this war. And if you have any message for diaspora Tigray speakers and the defense force of the Tigray people, and also the international communities overall in Tigrinya. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll try in Tigrinya. Korea. To the war in Ethiopia ዘሎ it's been 37 መዓልቲ ጌርና ትግራይ ብፀልማት ኮይና ብዘይ መብራህቲ ብዘይ ኢንተርኔት መዓት ሰብ ይመውት ከም ዘሎ ንሰምዕ ኣለና መብዛሕትኦም ናብ ሱዳን እናኸዱ ካብ ውግእ ክሃድሙ ይጅምር ኣለዉ እናተገበረ እዩ እና በዚ ኣብ ዓለም ዘሎ ሓለፍቲ ማለት ኢንተርፊን ክገብረሎም ክምክረሎም ጠጠው ከብልዎን እዚ ውግእ እዚ ብሰላምታ ብፍትሕ ክፈትሕዎ እዚ ዲስግሪመንት ዘለዎም ብጣዕሚ ኢንከሬጅ ክንገብሮም ኣለና ተጋሩ ኣብ ውሽጢ ዘሎ ብጣዕሚ ሕማቅ ፀገም እዩ ዝሕልፉ ዘለዉ ብጥምያት ይኹን ክንደይ ሽግር ኩሉ ትግራዋይ ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ሙሉእ እናተመረረ እናተቐተለ ካብ ስርሖም እናተባረሩ ክንደይ ሽግር የጋጥሞም ኣለናና ኣብ ዓለም ዘለና ኩሉና ተጋሩ ክንሳተፍ ኣለና ብዞም ኣሕዋትና ዝኩለይ ሽግር ዝፈጢሩ ዘኒዮ በዚ ውግእ እዚ እናስ ብኣቕምና ተሳተፍቲ ብኩሉ ኣቕምና ክንጓየ ኣለና ዓበይቲ ኣናእሽተይ ኩሉና እናስ ኣነ ንስኤ ክገብር ዝደሊ ክብል ዝደሊ ማለት ይቅርታ ትግርኛ ንእሽተይ ይኸብደኒ እንድዩ ግን ንማይክ ንስኻ ወዳእ እዮ
طيب مصبوك هذا اللي يا زبركي ايو ማለት ቅድሚ ሒዝም ተዛረብና ኢና ተጋሩ ኣወፅ ኣዝነና እዚዩ በቃ ዓወት ናትና ሞት ከዓ ዘሎ እዩ ንብሎ ትመከራ መፂና እዩ በቃ ትመጀመርታ ያው ደንጊፅና ብዙሕ ተራቢሽና ነርና ኢና ሒዝም ዝርብሸና ብዙሕ ነገር እንሄድ እዩ ኣነ ግን በቃ ጠንኪርና ሒዚ በቃ ይኹም ዝመከራ መፂና እዩ በቃ ንሕና ننتهي محوطة تصحيتهم خمسين رية زي نسيب أنا بصرف حسبنا ذا ده العيد نحن عايز إعلامنا انتهي حانتي إعلامنا انتهي يا تحاوفنا إفريم دور كايو أبديس نور حوطنا تجارو قينم تجرو طيب مخانم كاسرح تواي الرمز النيو إثيوبيا بمول النيو خا خنديش حاتات نا إثيوبيا إيرلاين مجد نعمل بمولهم كم توارو تزاري من أنا قد محيزم تزين تاي زاري نازل له تنيس تحزنا كا ياو تدارينا زي مسلحنا ينديو تمناتنا ارتعدي ያው ካብ ሒዞም ወፅንሑስ ዝሐሸ ተዘጋጀም ፅንሒ ግባእ ነይሩ ግን ስለዚ ከምዚ ተዘጋጀ ዘይፀናሕ ኩልካሲ ኣይኮነ ክሕሰብ ዘለዎ ድሕሪ ሒዚ ንሕና ክንሓስቦ ዘለና እንታይ እዩ በቃ እዚ ነገር እዚ መፅኡና እዩ ህዝብና ዝሞተ ክመውት እዩ ዝተረፈም ክተርፍ እዩ ካብ 6.5 ሚልዮን ላዕሊ ዝሓዘ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ደምሰበ እዩ ድምስዎን እዮም ጉዳይ እዩ ብዙሕ ነገራት ናይ ጨርቃ ጨርቅ ናይ ዓድዋ ካሊእ ክንደይ ነገራት ናይ ሽኮረ ፋብሪካ ዝነበረት ዘሎ ሙሉእ ዩኒቨርሲታት ኮምፒውተር ዝኾነ ናይ ኬሚካላት ናይ ዓዲግራት ዝነበረ መቐለ ገለታት እዚዩ ተወሪሩ ሃገርና ሸያጢ ኣነ ማለት ይቅርታ ገበርለይ እምበር ኣነ ሰላማት ኣሕዋትና ዋላ ንኣምነት ዝፈልጥ እዮም ስርቅና ሕሶት ምጭውርባር ብጣዕሚ ኣነ ማለት ዋላ ክርስቲያን ኮይነ ኣብ ሱዳን ተቐሚጠ ስደተኛ ኮይነ ብጣዕሚ ዝሕሱ ዝሰርቕ ሰብ ሓራሚ እዩ ዝበሃል ብስሩ ብዓረብኛ እዚ እንታይ ማለት እዩ ብናይ ብእስልምና ንባዕሉ ኣነ ብሽሙ እምበር ኣይፈልጦን እየ ሰብ እዚ ኣብይ ኣሕመድ ዓሊ እዩ ሽሙ ገሊኦም እስላማ እዩልና ገሊኦም እንታይ እዩልና ግን ንሱ ኣይኮነን ትዘረባ ንሕና እቶም እስላማት ኣሕዋትና እና እቶም እስላማት ሃገራት ጎረቤትና ንባዕሎም ከምዚ ሓረሜናት ዝኾነ ዝሕሱ ኩሉ ግዜ በብደቂቓ ወይዘር እዩ እኮ ዘለናዮ ፐሲፊክ ኖርት ዌስት ስለ ዘለና እቲ ወይዘር በቢ ሰዓቱ ይቀያየረና እዩ أنا سوكم زي ببساعته حسوا ببساعته زي شوربة ريه فلتن الناس إيه زياد كل بقى تردي إننا هنا زون من نسوك في مكان تقرأي إرتراي زي لكم على مولو تفضلوا لكم نحن هذا حيز ما قن بحارة حاويفنا إيه إذا ما كرا مزين هي بمنتهى تتأمرنا خم حانتي علامنا بقى إساياسنا أبي بقى خافز الله بتاعش من حزيت خامسرا من حزي وسيم سلام حيز مس مجدي يلني زي فلتيو هذي تقرأي جين مصي وزن هي مكرا حيزي نجوزيو إساياس حدا كذا قدم زولا نيري بس شعبية مسير ترام تواقع نايو حما وجن زي اللي ناحية إسرائيل انتهى تزاري ويو قداف عركسي حشكا قداف إنه إلهم أمريكا لايبريا حد حاجات نفس ما قلنا أتيم مالتي انتهى له تزاري وبتقرنيا أنا بقى شو عمت دفعتها تخيلة سلة تقمتكو كاب بعد ما وصأه مالت صحاي عاربة هيتورق مالتي زين تايو يفكريا أبي أحمدون معناه إساياس كوركوريو كوركور سلاز هون إساياس بزمرحو إساياس ولا إزغيد سلازيو نحن تعلمنا نتاعي هذي كوركور بساعات زحسوا كوركور بساعات زغير ملحس مليس بعلو ملحس يزنكس اللي إذا حسوا ذا الحساب ما نعمل لسه إذا نخص هذا تمن حاسو زي بك أمان بأمان ما نمنا سوا كيف تقرأي سكاف حيزن حيزي ترديكوا حيزن بقلص خوينا أنا حاولت أنا حلفت أيو أزيو تفضل لك ما نيم تقرأي بك بتقرأي زر مخان كما بك كما يجرم قتلوها كما يجرم كعالم كتفوها خطفونا يتعلم زنيه سلازيو انت حرنا انت بخينا تتناددنا مفتوح يكون مفتوح انت أيو بحدا خوينا كم تنقور زلنا وهابزي وجم ناتا دواولنا ناتا صحافنا بحدا خوينا كما يجرنا هابزي سلسة سمرزيو ياو كم نفلطو بزح ناب زله هو وقف الهاجرنا عملت أورجان سلسخانة ياو بتم سنترات من رخاب مدوال بإمام صحاف ستيت ديبارتمنت كومو زياد غيرنا نبقى منا نبلن نسترايد يكون خاسي تم حال حواتنا وتات حجز اليوم نحجزنا حواريتنا جورنا ببستيت زلنا يو نتحاور نتحجز إثيوبيا زنهم تجارخ أنا إيه خمس زور كوتنتينا يلهو ناي تقرأ يزرشا ناي تقرأ هزنا فيت دكانستيو دكتوعتيو أنا أسيك أنجتات وحلتات دكانستيو جنباركم توزل لهم نتقيث خين بركخ هاجرنا خيت شيات مريا تقرأي عزمتنا إخواتنا تشنديو برخا أمرا خوالعو زو خوالعو أيتقرفوا ونزلهم نفوتو لنا أيهم إذا مكارا زي ما تحل فيها هاجرنا خانيين إحنا تزولنا أيو دحان أبي شيء وصري ولا حرام خوين لكم بعربنا تزارو نقول لكم زنا سلام حرام خوين وزن هي أيهم نفس وقفنا ما لمي تمسجن نجزاهر أمركم الله أمركم عندما نميلنا عدنا صباح نقول سيزنا ورحفتي خنا ملصين عندما نميلنا حيزك انت قاند زلت أيو بقى عندما نميلنا زخوينا تزيو بقى عندما خي قارات كم زلوا زبزيو بعرقي بميلا مردا زي فلت مخانو تقبلنا ينا سلازيو جانا حواتنا تاي تمسلو أمينا أيون تولكم قريرنا أين تولكم عسران 4 ساعات تقاش عزل لهم تقارن عزل لهم حواتنا انقع خاواتهم تولدنا انقع خامخاتهم كنا انقع نايكالي يكوننا أول سلازيو بتقروانتنا بأخاتكم نخور علو ولا حيزي نقول له الجزء ولا يكون بر خورعنا إنا هيزم نخورعنا زلنا حرينا خاني إيه بتنهاتكم سر حسكم مزن لكم طبيعنا أوزي بعقمنا نقواي نوافر لنا إننا تسفى خيط قرصو إذا نقدر زي كاد حريز نحنا بقى ندحريت نقول المجدي يلا نيو بمنهم تأمر بسلام هاجرنا خوينا خنبرنا ندلي سلام زي دولي سلاز موسنا أرمينا تاتجن نظام سلام زي دولي أرمينا تاتزيهم بدم بجرنا عرس بعرسنا نتحاوفنا عبي زول من إساي نشتي تولد ولا تقرنيا قانا بدم بجرنا سنحنا كنحزو خمزة لنا هزبنا حاقفنا بدم بكنحزو خمزة لنا إذا حاولت هذا المحل لفنا يغني الله.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kathy. Cyber Power of Tigray. لما أنتي Kathy Abraha, Mike Kassahun and Cyber Power of Tigray. كوينهم كل زحاتكم حتتات تنبيهم الليسهم نهزبهم طبعا بمخانهم Cyber Power of Tigray قرعتي سمعنا لما أنتي زدالنا يو مدلاو أو زودينا لنا كلمة عالتي من Cyber Power of Tigray بخالي توبيك وين دما بخالي أجندة حزنا يوم كنملتنا Cyber Power of Tigray زدلكم حساب كل نجار كومنت جورلنا شير مقبارة يترسعوا appropriate كونكم كل نجار لايك شير سبسكرايب جوريهم لما عن تزحزنا البرنامج أو زودينا لنا صباح مس ناي تي بي ان من اسيات نجوهو أوتور لنا أيو ناي تي بي ان من اسيات تجارب بروفيشنال نتورك من اسيات حزيهم كأربية ساعتهم كتكتاتلو ناتاتهم انترفيو كتكتاتلو بتحتنا إجابز دهان هدرو